All right, cool. So I just want to first question,
Okay.
what goes through your head when you're going down the track?
So it really depends on which track and if it's a race or training. So in training, the way I do it is obviously there's a lot to do on every run, right? So it's most tracks are about 16 to 20 curves. So in training, I pick three things I want to work on each run, and I usually take two runs a day. And really, it's cool because when I get super hyper focused for those three things, and everything else kind of just going through the motions, just trying to set up everything for that. And once I do the three things, I'm just trying to stay relaxed and just execute what I usually do or what I did the day before if it's something I already worked on. In races, my brain's just completely turned off and try to get in a flow state, all instincts. I kind of have a running checklist through my head, and kind of just as I do everything right, and it's kind of getting checked off in the back of my head, but I'm really just in a zone. I won't even remember really what happened in the races, how the runs went. Whereas training, after the run, I could sit down and I'll write everything that happened every turn. But in a race, it's almost like a blackout state, just completely in the moment.
What about before you start the race?
Yeah. So yeah, it's a similar thing. So in training, I'm pretty nervous usually. I'm thinking about the things I need to do, and I kind of feel more pressure in a way because you only, like I said, you only have two shots at it a day. So I know if I mess that up, it's one time, that's 50% of the chance I had to work on that is gone. So I actually get more nervous from that. But in the race, it's just all I think about is the start. Just it's kind of like when I ran track before, just all I thought about was getting out of the blocks. It's just that. And then once I'm on the sled, it's just go time. But I am pretty nervous most times.
So do you have a favorite track?
Yeah. So my favorite track is Lake Placid, New York. That's where I started.
Yeah.
And yeah, I'm a little biased because it's also where I do the best at, but I like the style of the track. Everything comes at you very quickly. You're constantly doing things. Some tracks you're more we call it gliding, where there's a lot of where you're just lying there and trying to be still, but I'm not good at sitting still, so I prefer to be doing things.
So at where do you practice? Just out of curiosity.
So the tracks are all over the world. In North America, they're in Park City, Utah, Lake Placid, Whistler, Vancouver, and then the other tracks I've been to a track in Korea.
Cool.
Last Olympics was in China, so there's a track there now. Germany has two tracks, Austria, and then Switzerland. I've also been.
That's cool. And what is your favorite not North American track
Outside.
thing?
Okay, so I guess it's two. There was a track called in Königssee in Bavaria, Germany, and that was my favorite track. Unfortunately, a giant flood uh destroyed it last summer, so
Oh,
it's no longer there. But I liked it a lot because I'll talk about this in one of your next questions. But it's I think it's 4 kilometers from Hitler's Eagle's Nest where he would have his summer vacations. And there's a lot of pictures of him. There's a famous picture of him on the lake that's literally outside the track. So it's really cool to go there and represent Israel. Um, and it was a tradition for the bobsled team that my teammate AJ Edelman started, where we would make sure somebody was there for Hanukkah and light the candles. Now there's no reason to go there because there's no track, but I would say that was my favorite track outside Lake Placid. And now St. Moritz in Switzerland is the only natural track. They dig it out of the snow every year. The other ones are all artificial, refrigerated, and that one's natural. Like these guys come and with shovels, they dig it fresh every year, and it's really that one's really cool too.
how do you why do you Lake Placid? Is there does it slide better? Is there not a lot of movement when you're going down? Why is it your favorite?
Yeah, it's actually so St. Moritz, the natural track, is super smooth. Lake Placid, most people don't like it because it's very aggressive. We call it, a lot of people call it, it's like going through a laundry machine, a washing machine, and the ice is also bumpy, but it's just a track where I've probably taken 600 skeleton runs in my life, and
Wow.
I think half have been at Lake Placid. So I'm really just on autopilot, and I'm at a level there where I'm fine tuning things instead of learning at this point. So it's nice just to go down and um I think the best run I ever had, I just like couldn't sleep one night and I was basically a zombie, and I showed up the next day and literally had the best run of my life just because I just know it so well. I could do it on autopilot. The other tracks, when you're learning a track, obviously it's, you're a little more nervous,
Yeah.
uh it's a little more stressful. So that's why I like Placid.
What has been your most memorable experience in your career being a BSI athlete?
Um, oh, probably the one I just had in Lake Placid, winning a gold medal in the North America Cup
Yeah.
and hearing Hatikva. Um, probably just from, yeah, that was kind of my dream, obviously to make the Olympics too, but besides that, and maybe more so, it was to hear. I would say it was more fulfilling than making an Olympics was winning a race for Israel here in Hatikva. That's something I knew I had to do in my career and would always felt like I needed to do more than even going to the Olympics. So that's the answer. But there's been many good memories too.
So speaking of Hatikva, like what what did you like feel when you're here at play?
So
Like
yeah, so yeah, go on.
especially after like you won a race. You won first and had a, a great run.
Yeah, so it was really cool because I had a really, it was my dream. Like it's something we do a lot of visualization, right? So you imagine having the perfect run and then winning the race and how it feels. And that was something I always thought about, dating back to 2 years ago when I started sliding for Israel, imagining that scene. And it was pretty surreal. Just because, yeah, the race was kind of crazy. I had a giant lead. And then on the second run, the sled came out of the grooves when I was pushing it at the beginning,
Ugh.
and I fell way behind because my start time was really slow because of that. I was going sideways. I had both my feet on the ice trying to get it straight, and I basically didn't regain the lead till the last curve. And just coming through and seeing the number one, because when you come through, you see your time and then it tells you what place you're in. Seeing the number one, and then the ceremony was the next day. So I didn't even race the next day, and I just came out and came to get the medal, and it was just awesome. There were a bunch of people there, and everybody got to hear that tikva. People were complimenting me on how nice it is. They never heard it before, so that was really cool.
Yeah, I was after the race. I was looking at the race times, and it was like weird. One of your start times is like a lot slower, but then it
Yeah,
got like it the middle and the end was very fast.
yeah, it was interesting because I knew
Yeah,
usually nobody wins a race when that happens. So it was kind of interesting because, like what I was telling you with how my mind shuts off usually in the race, it actually was in a weird panic mode where
yeah.
I was just counting each curve, like, okay, that was good enough. I was just going down the list, and I knew I had to be perfect, and I wasn't, but I got away with being close to perfect.
So how do you prepare to be a skeleton athlete or
How do I
train?
prepare? So
Just
in the
like
summer, you train like a track athlete. There's no ice. Um, for the lucky individuals who are either part of a country that has an indoor push facility. So in Calgary, Lake Placid, they have an ice house, they call it. And you could go and there's ice all year round. You just do the start and jump on. That's it. Just go back and forth. But it's really helpful. Other than that, you're training like a track athlete sprinter. So you're in the gym, lifting on the track, sprinting, plyometrics. And then I do a lot of mental training. So I'm watching video, closing my eyes, imagining runs. I have a virtual reality headset and Oculus that I can watch some footage on. And then I also have a coach, cognitive training coach who trains fighters. I don't know if you watch UFC, but he trains boxers, fighters, and it's just a decision making. So to be able to really quickly process things, not just like reaction time, but decision making time. So that's what I do in the summer, and then I go in the winter, and you kind of bounce around the tracks wherever there's training time, and you just try to learn the tracks, do some races, and that's pretty much it.
But like when you're sledding down, do you have your eyes open, and like do you obviously I'm pretty sure you memorize the track, but like do you have that in your brain, or do you keep your eyes open? And
Yeah, so it's funny because you memorize the track before you go, right? And you could still get a little lost. Like last year I was at a track, St. Moritz, and because it's a natural track and it's all just white instead of other tracks you could see, and there's usually markers or like something distinctive about the way it's built, like where the roof is or something, and you could use that as cues if you're a little lost. Obviously, once you've gone down a few times, you just know it, and you could do it with your eyes closed. Lake Placid, I've gone down with my helmet completely fogged up and actually had an okay run just from using the Jedi Force. But yeah, you memorize it, you watch tons of POV video, and then yeah, it comes at you really fast the first couple times, and then things start to slow down for you. You get faster, but your brain processes it faster, so it feels slower, and you pretty much by your second time down the track, you should have a good idea where you are. But sometimes you might fly out of a corner, take a hit, your head's pressed to the ground because of the G forces, and then you just have to really trust it and kind of know where you are.
like when you're taking a hit, how do you like bounce back, like physically and mentally? How do you bounce back from the curve or a hit?
Yeah, usually it depends. There's many different ways you could end up on your side. You have to be relaxed when you hit a wall, because if you're tense, then you're more likely to pop up or something, because the way the physics works. So you got to be relaxed, but also like one time I've never lost my sled during a run, but there's this track in Germany where it's easy to come out of the last curve on your side past the finish line, and I was too relaxed, and the sled just got away from me and just like went out. So you need to be relaxed, but also once you get on your side, you need to be tense enough to quickly put it back on the ice so you're back on your stomach instead of on your side.
Is skeleton like, do you steer it, or is it? So
Yeah.
how do you steer it? The
Yeah, we joke head, shoulders, knees, and toes. So it depends where you in the curves, when you have the pressure being put on you, you're using, it's hard to see if you watch a race, it's hard to see what people are even doing sometimes, because you're just pressing your shoulder down or your knees to try to keep the angle. It's just there's pressure, so you could like manipulate the pressure to keep the sled on longer, or for it to come off the curve sooner. For example, if you were going in a curve, a left turning curve, and you don't want the sled to get picked up too high, you'll press your right shoulder down to prevent it from coming up. It keeps it where it is. So you're doing that in the curves, and then in the straight parts, you can't really press your knees and shoulders because you'll skid, because there's not anything, you're on ice, and the runners on the bottom are pretty round. So in there, you're being more subtle. You're just moving your head a little bit, letting the wind do its thing. And if you're in trouble, you'll put your foot down. If you see somebody put their foot down, that means they're in trouble. And that's like the quickest way to turn the sled, but it slows you down because your foot's on the ice.
What is it like being an American, well, now Israeli, representing Israel?
Yeah, it's really cool. I started in the US program before I switched, but I always wanted to represent Israel. It made more sense to start with the US program because there's coaching and ice time and more resources. So So yeah, it's pretty awesome. I mean, it's a little weird because sometimes Israelis might not view you as Israeli as they are. Um, but I think like if I was representing the US, or if I couldn't represent Israel, let's say that way, I wouldn't be doing the sport anymore. I only do it because of my love for Israel. The sport itself, it's really challenging and hard, and you need that motivation outside of just yourself and able to do it. And for me, that's representing Israel.
Like when you went to Israel, like how many times did you did you hear people say like Israel has a bobsled team? Oh my God, or skeleton team, and like, is it weird not participating in your country? Like,
Yeah, right. So there's no, I could do my summer training in Israel. And when I sometimes I'll go for a week, and even there, even at the athletic center, the Wingate Institute, they don't know what the sport is.
yeah,
You know what bobsled is. Um, so yeah, that's kind of weird. And it's like I wouldn't say it hurts, but it makes you not feel loved. but for the people that do support me and watch me, and for just the people in the sport, that if I wasn't there, there would be no Israel represented there. I know it's important, and that's what keeps me going. And as I go on, I get better. I win some medals, and people start to hear about the sport in Israel, and that's a goal too. But I would say most of my supporters are American Jews.
when did you first like decide that you were going to be a Israel skeleton athlete, and like how did you decide why?
Yeah, so I was watching the Olympics in 2014 while I was in law school from my dorm, and they make it look so easy. The top guys that they show in the Olympics, they just run, they jump on, and it looks like they're doing nothing. So I said, oh, I looked them up. I was like, oh, my track times, my 100-meter times were similar to these guys. I could probably do this. So I wanted to run track for Israel originally, 100 meters, but once I discovered skeleton, it sort of made more sense. Just because it's easier to qualify in a way. It's a sport you could start at 26 like me and almost qualify for the Olympics. I would have qualified under the rules under which I started, but they got changed. That's another story. But yeah, that was so kind of the sport just chose me. I had the base do to have potential because I was a fast runner, and then I've learned the driving pretty good. Could be better, but done okay.
So is that your strong, like, is the running your strong suit?
I would say, yeah, I'm competitive at the start. I'm not like world class, but I'm very competitive at that part. And I think I also learn the tracks quickly. The thing I'm bad at is being relaxed on the sled. That's what I'm working on now. I tend to oversteer and maybe be a little tense. So that's the next step.
Like, what did it feel like being so close to the Olympics, but like it's like a millisecond away? I mean, not literally, but you
Yeah,
know.
right. It was okay. So it wasn't, I was proud of what I did. There's only so much you could do. The guys who got the last two spots been in the sport for, one of them for 11 years, one for 15, and I was in my third season. So there's only so much I could do. I finished three spots out. 25 guys made it. I was 28th. Um, and I felt like I represented well. I won a few podium finishes for Israel along the way, a couple silvers and a bronze. Um, and yeah, I did what I could. I worked as hard as I could, so it didn't really. I think for a lot of people, it's the regret comes in, or the sadness comes in regret, but I had nothing to regret, so it was. I felt like I did what I could, and I was okay with the results. I could live with them.
It's like you're in skeleton, you're the only one on the team. Like,
Mhm.
how do you compete with like how do you have a connection with your competitors? Because I know
Yeah.
there was the
Right,
Irish.
right. So yeah, you end up, for us in small nations, we call it, you're kind of on your own. So the way to do the sport is to find other people to partner with, and share resources. So last year I partnered with the guy from Ireland and a girl from Sweden, and we shared a coach and travel and housing to make it more affordable and to also just help each other and learn. You need teammates. Like we go down, we only have 6 chances to learn before a race, say. We need to talk and say, hey, what happened here? How'd you fix this? And it just speeds up the learning process to have teammates. So you have to. It's kind of weird because, I'm also trying to beat him, but either we both could be down here or we could help each other and one of us is going to win, but at least we're both better for it. So,
Now to like the anti-Semitism part, like have you experienced any anti-Semitism?
so everybody in the sport's been, to me, has been really good. And a lot of people ask questions and they're interested in learning about Israel. And so I find that good. And I've gone to tracks and there's fans there in Germany and they're very supportive and they're excited to see Israel there. And that's really cool. The one thing I guess that happened last year was there's this track in Altenburg, Germany. It's like, where is it? It's in East Germany. Let's say it's an hour and a half south of Berlin in a small town. And uh there's a kebab shop, a Turkish kebab shop. And me and my coach, who's from Australia, and he would always joke like, AJ before me, he knew him. The guy who did skeleton before me would complain about anti-Semitism. I'll put you in touch with him, by the way. He has a story about it at the Olympics. I won't speak for him, but for me, then I went with my coach and we went to the kebab place in Germany, and it he felt like he always doubted it, and then he felt just the staring, and like you could tell the people looking at me. I was wearing my team jacket, and he even told me, he's like, okay, now I see why you usually take off your jacket before you go into places, because he's like, basically was like, you better go outside. I don't want them poisoning our food. So go out, take off the jacket, and come back with my undershirt on, so just a black shirt. Um, that's one thing I have to do, that like they would always ask me, my Irish teammate and my coach last year, because I would always take off my jacket before going in. It's really cold out before going in places. And then once I wore my jacket in, he saw that and he was like, okay, now I understand what you guys deal with and why you do that. So that was, for me, it wasn't on the track. It was just at a restaurant, but um it's probably something that wouldn't happen here in the US. So that was an experience. And then AJ at the Olympics had a thing where the jury members like made a comment. There was something about a helmet he had, and somebody complained that it was not legal. And then he was obviously fighting for his case, and one of the jury members deciding said something like, "You people always think you can control or make the rules." So that was his thing. He could tell it better than me, but that was, yeah. So he had a little more of an experience than me.
Do you ever like have a fear that like people are gonna have like harsh comments or like violence?
Um, Harsh comments. I kind of think sometimes I imagine like somebody seeing where I'm at on social media and coming and like throwing something at me in the track. Because there's no, not security along the whole track. They're public. Anybody could pretty much come in. During COVID, they were more secure, but now anybody can come in and do something. I know it's unrealistic, and I don't think about it when I'm actually going, but I guess it's something that crosses my mind when I'm just thinking about upcoming or thinking about sliding races.
What is it like visiting Israel as somebody who like represents the state of Israel in sport?
Yeah, so I've been, since I made Aliyah, I've been 3 times. Um, yeah, I mean, it's definitely cool. The coolest thing is going in the airport and having the passport now and going in the citizen line instead. But then then obviously they start speaking Hebrew to me, and my Hebrew's not that good, and then it kind of, it's different. I have a lot of Israeli friends here, in Miami. When I go there, though, I need to learn the language to feel completely, I guess, at home, but still the feeling getting off the plane, it is home, even if not like completely culturally yet for me. It's a special feeling, and I definitely feel, it feels better than before when I was just visiting, to be like, to have an address there and to be able to vote, and to work there if I wanted. And um, yeah, it just kind of brings everything together for me. That was always a dream of mine, and to do it through the sport, it's really, it's like a big, I'm very grateful for it.
How how do you have like how do the coaches help you in the training?
Yeah. So what they do, they film you in the
Yeah.
track, because otherwise you're just going off your memory. So they'll film you, and you'll see things you didn't even know you were doing. For example, my coach would be like, "You were steering all the way to the end of the curve. You should have let go of that steer in the middle of the curve." And in my head, I did, but now I'm watching it. I'm like, "Oh yeah, I was literally steering like out of the curve, and that's why I hit the wall." They advise you on equipment, because we have different runners we put under the sled for different conditions. So they might see other athletes using something, or based on the ice temperature or the weather, they'll make suggestions. And yeah, that's what they do. It's mostly filming, uh, looking at your times, figuring out where you're losing time, coming up with solutions. And on the race, they just hold your sled for you and scream at you. There's nothing to do at that point. So it's all on you.
So for the I want to learn more about the AJA thing, the Advancing Jewish Athletics. So how do you by how do you help like the Jewish athletes, and who have you helped the most? You and the AJ.
Right. So we're a new organization. So right now we raise money. Well, me and AJ contributed from our own fundraising to our first grant. So we have $3,000 we're gonna give to a male and female athlete who we think best represent our mission statement. And applications will be open soon, and it's for Israeli athletes or just Jewish athletes who represent the Jewish people well in international competition. Here, I'll read the exact mission so I get it right. But yeah, so our mission is to say, let's get the exact wording. I'll send this to you. So we want to provide support for aspiring Jewish athletes and give them an opportunity to have some financial assistance. So for me, the biggest challenge in my sport is funding. It's money. So we want other people to have an extra source, both from the grant that we award and also just the ability to fundraise through our nonprofit, so that your donors could have the tax benefits of that. And we want to just grow this Jewish sport. We think that it's one thing, like Israel and Jews we're very good in a lot of industries, and we should be good in sports. If you look at Major League Baseball, a higher percentage of MLB players are Jewish compared to the general American population, and which is crazy because there's also tons of foreigners in MLB. But yet Jewish people have this mindset that we aren't good at sports and shouldn't be good at sports. But I think it's wrong. I think we are talented at that as well, but it's just a mindset problem, and that's what we're trying to fix here, is kind of say, why not? Like, why can't we also be good at this like we are at other things? So
Yeah. So the Israel baseball team was like I think it was fifth in the world for for they made the Olympics. I know that.
yeah, we made the Olympics. I think we ended up fourth. I don't think we won a medal. I think we were fourth.
Yeah.
I could be wrong. Fact check that.
And
But
then now they're playing this year the World Baseball Classic.
in
And
Miami, yeah, you should come
surprise
down.
yeah. I want to watch it. Surprisingly, there's actually a ton of Jewish football players. There's
Yeah,
like
so there's well, obviously there was Julian Edelman, Schwartz from the Chiefs, right? The lineman.
Mitchell Schwartz, Ali Marpet. The AJ Dillon.
Yeah, he's half Jewish, or he identifies as Jewish, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, no, he converted, I think, to Judaism. And Greg Joseph, the kicker, who
Yeah, on the
he broke
Vikings.
a record. It was it was crazy. They beat the
Yeah.
Giants. I'm a Patriots fan, so I was happy they beat the Giants.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So that's it for me. Thanks.
Yeah,
Thanks for logging on. That
of
was super
course.
fun.